Hi everyone, this is Gary, and today we're going to be talking about improving your compositional skills. We'll be talking about using the rule of thirds to help you lay out your photograph for the best composition, as well as talking about using things of foreground interest and lead-in lines to draw your viewer's eye through your photograph and keep them interested in it, as well as when to break some of these rules and to use unusual but interesting viewpoints from which to take your photograph. So here we go, let's get started.
Composition. Aside from getting your exposure set properly, composition is what can turn an okay scene into one that people stop and take notice of. Composing the elements in the frame is the real art of the photographic process. One way of composing your photograph for maximum impact is to take the frame and divide it up into 9 sections, known as the rule of thirds, into which you place the elements of your photograph. This concept of arranging the elements in your picture has been around for centuries, as both painters and photographers have used this method to organize the elements in their scene. This rule of thirds concept is a simplified version of the golden section used in art and architecture. The rule of thirds consists of dividing the scene into 2 equally spaced vertical lines and then 2 equally spaced horizontal lines, as in this picture. The idea is to organize what you see within your viewfinder so that it draws your viewer's eyes into and around the scene. If you have a strong focal point that you can place at one of the points where the vertical and horizontal lines intersect, you create a more dynamic effect than if you were to place it in the center of the frame, such that a viewer sees mostly that object and not what else is in the picture. For landscape photographers, some of the most dynamic effects come from placing the horizon on one of the horizontal lines so that you have 2/3 land and 1/3 sky, or vice versa. As a rule of thumb, the only time it makes sense to place your horizon in the center of the frame is when you are shooting a reflection of a scene in water to create a mirror effect. Now let's talk about how to include foreground to create an image that ties something up close to the distant horizon. Including foreground in your picture helps to give a two-dimensional photograph a feeling of being more three-dimensional. One of the reasons that many photographs fail is that they don't convey the sense of depth that our eyes see. To add a sense of depth can be achieved by including a strong foreground or nearby object in a wide-angle shot. By adding an area of the foreground in, you draw your viewer's eyes into it as an entry point of your photograph, for which your eyes will then travel around the rest of the photograph and cause them to linger and examine your photograph longer. In essence, the foreground of your photograph helps pull the viewer into the scene and gives the photograph a sense of distance and scale. When including an area of foreground into your photograph, try shooting from a lower level than eye level. This will help compress the middle area of the photograph and tie the foreground to the background. In this picture, I have included a pair of boulders to anchor the foreground and set my tripod at waist level, which has given the boulders more prominence in the scene. Another means of drawing the viewer's eyes into your photograph is to use lead-in lines, which I'll talk about next. A line in a photograph which your eyes can follow helps to create a sense of both motion and depth. By giving your viewer's eyes something to follow allows you to direct their attention around your photograph. A line in a photograph can be a man-made object such as roads or paths, or natural lines that come from shapes in nature like a fallen timber, a winding river, or a row of flowers. The idea behind having a line in your photograph, whether it's a straight line or a winding line, is to draw your viewer's eye gently through the whole picture, allowing the viewer to take in other elements within your composition. Now that you've been given 3 concepts to try, I hope you'll go out and take a few shots utilizing each concept individually, as well as combining them together.